The Jaguar XE here today with the new small petrol engine, but still with 250 horsepower. That's today on Autogefühl, your number one resource for in-depth car reviews and your number one community to discuss cars. Today with Thomas. We're going to take a detailed look here on the exterior, the interior, and of course the driving performance with this very new original Jaguar engine. And we're going to show you some different trims, colors, exterior both and interior, everything you need to know about the Jaguar XE. And everything of that in full HD, full screen and full length. Let's go! I think we can all agree that the Jaguar XE is one of the beauties in the mid-size sedan segment. There will not be an estate version, so we'll also stick with the sedan here, but probably worldwide that's also a good decision because it's always cost intensive to offer more chassis versions. Here you can see this is the R-Sport version, so that means you do not have to pick the biggest engine, but you can still already have a very sporty style. For example, with a black shiny grille, with a red Jaguar Growler, you know, the Growler in the front, like is the Growler, and the Jaguar that is jumping, that one is the Jaguar Leaper. The R-Sport version also features air intakes here in the lower area, also a stronger lower bumper. Then the headlights start with halogen and are optional with bike xenon, as you can see it right here, and some central lines right there. Also, cesium blue is this very attractive color. A lot of different, very unique colors available for the XE. I really love that. Comes close to what we call Thomas Blue here on Autogefühl. The only thing I don't like with the design is that the front hood is not going all the way to the front, but is split right here for insurance reasons. It brings down the insurance. Well, that not the whole front hood has to be replaced in a small crash. Then again, that is also an advantage for the customer. 4.67 meters or 15'3" is the total length of the Jaguar XE. Here again, the R-Sport trim I think is a good choice because again, you do not have to pick the biggest engine, but already get the sporty image, also with a special badge right there. We got 18-inch rims, and I think they already work quite well. Of course, there are also bigger ones available, but then again, you have to think about you scratch them easier and also maybe lose some comfort. So 18 inch is maybe a good choice. Also, again, this special blue color works pretty well in the side profile. And in general, Jaguar design is defined by very few design lines. You see, they do not play so much around with the design. Also not too dramatic from the dropping lines, but very well you can see the play of light and shadow that is created right there. And then right to the rear, you see this one design line goes all the way to the back, and then this coupe style ending right there at the windows. Again, I think beautiful work by chief designer Ian Callum from Jaguar. Or what do you think? Put me your opinion in the comments. Taking German prices as a reference, 37,000 the XE is starting. And if you go for the R-Sport trim, also with an upgraded engine as we have here today, then you have to add about 10,000 and you get your approximate price. But it's of course the very same price than the Audi, BMW and Mercedes competitors also have. Here, for example, you can also see you have the AWD version, all-wheel drive. Soon I will give you more details on that when we talk about the engines. Here at the rear you can see there's an added wing, just a very, very small one. I think it's still an elegant style. And you have two exhaust pipes right there. Also, you can see that the taillights, they have this curve here, which was originally still inspired by the vintage Jaguar E-Type. So overall, I think probably to me one of the most beautiful cars in this very segment. Of course, I want to hear your take on that in the comments. And a short closer look at another color in silver. Here again in the R-Sport trim, but with black 19-inch wheels. So if you rather prefer that little evil style. Or what about cream white, here with 19-inch silver rims and in the S trim level. So this one is the true V6 under the hood. However, you can see it doesn't differentiate much design-wise with the R-Sport trim. So what's underneath the hood? So far you could get a 2-liter diesel with 136, 180 or 240 horsepower, or with the bigger ones, optional with all-wheel drive. You could get the 3-liter V6, the famous one with 380 horsepower. And then new now, this one here, the 2-liter turbo petrol engine, either with 200 or 250 horsepower, as we can see it right here. And the acceleration figures are actually quite good, because you either score 6.3 seconds to 100 kilometers an hour or 62 miles an hour, or 7.1 depending on the how horsepower output. Of course 6.3 here then with the 250 horsepower variant, so it's a little bit more tuned, a little bit more torque. And interesting thing is that they're using a twin scroll turbo here. That means it's not two turbos, it's one, but this twin scroll technology means that there are two airstreams, and that should deliver a more harmonic power output and still also improves the efficiency. Of course, we want to find out more about that when we drive the car. Jaguar key that has been aligned also with the Land Rover keys. Then also keyless entries from standard equipment, very solid door handles, and they figured a good door closing sound. Also the AC, air conditioning, Bluetooth, all serial production standard equipment, so very good standard equipment in general. Then we can see different surfaces here. I'm not exactly sure if it's leatherette or real leather. Usually on the inside of doors you have leatherette. On the top part it's not entirely hard plastic. You see, you can push it in just a little bit, and also when you knock it, it doesn't give a real plastic sound, so you have a little soft surface on there. So good there from the build quality. Interesting design-wise, you can see that there's this fin coming up here, and also again those sensual lines that are being formed here with the optional Meridian sound system. The mirrors you can control here at the inside of the doors. It's a pretty handy solution to either control the right or the left mirror. Then if we move on to the interior, what can we see here? This is again the R-Sport trim that also continues on the interior with R-Sport badge here, for example, and some sporty elements. We see contrast stitches here, again covered with the leatherette-like material. That is well done. Only here the top on the dashboard. This one here is hard plastic. I think they should have just continued that one also on right here. The instruments you can see, they are fully digital, therefore at the moment you cannot see anything, but we will of course show you that very soon. Interesting now what comes with the seats. I mean, this one color-wise very much corresponds with the exterior color. It gives a good contrast. Even with those supposed to be optional animal skin seats, I'm not exactly sure which parts are real and which ones are leatherette. You see, there's you cannot really differentiate it today anymore. But what I can really tell you from reading price lists and configurators is they offer a wide variety of animal skin alternatives. So Jaguar Land Rover has seen that they have to do something also with the new Range Rover Vela, for example. There are new alternatives evolving, for example, you know, with those 70% plastic bottle recycling materials on the seats and 30% wool, I think it is. So the Vela we will also show you again very soon. And here, interesting to know, it also differs from market to market. In Germany, you start with fabric seats or cloth seats, so Stoff it would be in Germany, but it's already available in 3 colors: black, beige and gray. And that's a great choice that you have the color choice in already. And for our US customers and, you know, other markets that, you know, orient on the US market, they get from standard equipment then full leatherette options, also again in black, gray and beige, so a great choice. Then this R-Sport trim we have right here, standard comes with Alcantara or microfiber on the, cloth on the inside of the seats and then leatherette on the outside. This is also a great choice. And the S trim, if you go for the big petrol engine, that one comes with Alcantara then on the inside and then supposed to be animal skin on the outside. And then you can get those full leather options, mainly if you go for this prestige or portfolio trim levels. So the R-Sport, definitely a clever choice for sportiness and sustainability at the same time. And again, they here offer more alternatives than most of the German manufacturers. Besides that, you know, Mercedes is pretty good in offering good seat alternatives. And by the way, the brand name of this leatherette Jaguar is called Luxtec. We can also see it right here. Good idea to let the whole dashboard cover it with that. You know, for example, in Audi vehicles, which are in general great with the interior, but we only see plastic on the dashboard. And so we have here the leatherette, which makes a more premium atmosphere. So Luxtec would be then, for example, like Sensortec at BMW, MBTEX or Artico at Mercedes, this own brand name. Overall, the cockpit layout, you can see it's first of all dominated by this optional 10.2-inch screen. It starts with an 8-inch screen, so this one is the optional InControl Touch Pro system. Then also defining is this so-called Riva hoop inspired by yacht designs. So, you know, with very expensive boats, you can see then at the rear of the boat, this span is going all the way around. We also know it from the Jaguar XJ, and they also wanted to bring it to the XE, also an interesting idea. It's just, you know, there's the optional head-up display, and it's great to have it, but design-wise in the cockpit, of course, that's with every brand, it adds this additional thing right there on the dashboard. You know, I've seen also with BMW 5 Series, it always looks a little bit bad, but then again, you profit from having the head-up display all the time. Then the buttons for climate control are in the lower part, as you can see it right there. Engine start-stop button, and what is always great to have is those Jaguar coming alive functions when you start the engine, that the drive selector pops up saying, "Hello, here I am, please touch me," and put in the D, the drive mode, or for example also the R mode for reverse. And there we can see we have this new rear camera with a great resolution. They've really worked on that. So meanwhile, look at that resolution. It's really crystal clear. Really like that. And you can also have the 360-degree view, the fake drone view from above. Too bad they haven't matched the color of this very vehicle by that. 3,500 euros extra, by the way, including the GPS for this bigger system. Of course, it fits the dashboard a little better. You can either connect your phone via Bluetooth, that is possible. Climate control you can also access right there. So this is possible that you can control the vents right there, but it's also possible to do it with the buttons below. Other than that, you can also plug in your smartphone for mirroring with the InControl apps. We have a separate video on that, how it works, so they trust on their own system. Also, they have got an ambient lighting system. Like here, you can have different colors. Maybe we'll stick with blue like we have with our vehicle on the outside, but also racing red is possible. Climate control, well, it's a mix of still having buttons. I liked it, for example, to control the temperature just manually, and Also nice clicking sounds. But then if you want to change where the vents are coming from, you have to press this button first, and then in the infotainment system, then you can pick it. Same for the seat heating. You press this button and then you press the activation for the seat heating in the infotainment screen. You get a volume button right here, but it's pretty far away from the driver. You rather would do it at the steering wheel, I guess. Then at the part below that, you got some more storage space. The drive selector I've shown you already. Then you can pick the driving modes. Snow, for example, lower throttle input, on the right, snow, and race, less stability control and more throttle input, and also shifting characteristics change. Then some adaptive bottle holders, and then the armrest. So the very first vehicles we've tested were poor in the build quality, but they fixed it now. So you see, for example, here, really fixed with this armrest here, also with a leather red cover. So it's good to see that they have really improved that. And then you have some more space below, also with a USB port and HDMI. So you can also get digital instruments for the XE with an analog layout, but for example other possibilities, for example to have the GPS map all the way right there, and then just the speed very small. So depending on your like, the advantage of the digital display is you're more flexible. However, I'm also fine with analog instruments. So what about the rear compartment? Here in the mid-size segment, I got the seat as I would be driving, and that is 1.86 m or 6'1". And you see there's not much knee room left. So overall, well, it's okay for 4 adults, but it's not really super relaxing. So the disadvantage of this vehicle is it doesn't have a good package. You gotta have a Jaguar XF to have more knee room and headroom. Well, although we have a small panoramic roof right there, the ceiling raises a little bit, and so I can put a hand over my head. So as soon as I would be 190 in meters or 6'2", that would become a problem. Also, you can see that the rear seats are a little bit offset from the front seat. You can see I don't sit exactly behind the front seat, but it's a little bit more to the right. So overall, again, not a good result here for the rear compartment. I would rather consider this here as a 1 or 2 people car. I mean, it still works with adults here in the rear, but it's not really for longer terms. What is good that they have ISO fixed covers on both of the outside seats and also 3 top tethers. So a lot of child seat installation is actually possible. Pretty thick middle tunnel because this car is primarily rear wheel driven, or then optionally with the all-wheel drive. And you can also fold down some beverage holders here with the middle armrest. This vehicle here is not equipped with the foldable rear bench. There is an option for it, but that one here doesn't have it. Too bad also that they make it an option. And here, by the way, you can see the LED signature light in the rear. Pretty beautiful, isn't it, here with this line right there. And now let's open it. You can see that when I open the trunk, electric hatch here, lights get split. And I mean, it's a pretty reasonable space you have there. So they've used the space they have. Of course, a sedan doesn't have a good entry here to load things in, but it will fit for a lot of suitcases. That's no problem. Interesting is that the replacement tire has a fancy alloy in it in orange. Isn't that cute? And well, it goes quite long in there, of course. Again, as I said, no estate available. Although they have massively improved the build quality over the last 2 model years, there's some work to do. For example, here, there are not those levers now for releasing the rear bench, but you can see there's no cover. Open screws and stuff, and a little sharp partly, so I think there should be a nice cloth cover for that. And child safety test here. Hey, it's also accompanied by a horning of the car. So the car says, be careful. So obviously that works. So, welcome to the driving part, and we're starting here, riding to a small gate, and there you can see, well, the vehicle does not have the best overview to really get the feeling where it is ending. Small rear window, also, you know, the quite voluminous sides here in the interior, for example. There's a red F-Pace, all today with British number plates, although we're in Germany. The head-up display is also activated now. It looks rather simple with yellow writing. I prefer white one, but maybe they've put it also in yellow writing because you can maybe better see it at night, something like that. Maybe it's that. So, and we also start with some agility riding, just in a normal driving mode, because this is also what the XE is about. I mean, it's not a big Jaguar, and they have really worked on the driving dynamics of this vehicle, so this should be very special. By the way, if you here see in the front the digital display, it is not flickering. It's just, you know, this small action camera is running on automatic shutter, and also the frame rate does not always match the one of the display. Then it can happen that it's flickering on camera, but not in real life. So let's get going here in those beautiful corners. Also some bumps inside the corner. It's good to see how the car reacts there, and immediately you feel that this car is a lot of fun. The steering is pretty light. It could also be a little bit more progressive, that we have a little bit more steering effect. Here in this area, maybe you can also say it's a little bit too light. You could argue that. So we did have test vehicles with a little bit more natural driving feeling. So you don't get so much feedback from the steering wheel when you are inside the corner. The suspension, however, is doing a great job, even if there are some bumps, and also the vehicle is kept pretty steady, pretty flat out, without being too uncomfortable. So suspension-wise, they've really done a good job, and we already experienced that with our very first ride in the Jaguar XE. Also, if you do some slalom, for example, something the vehicle's managing very well, is also a lot of fun. You're being kept in the seats also quite well, although if you had the one of the recommended one with the fabric or Alcantara in the middle, you would be steadier also in the seats. To the front, I do not like that we have those heat windscreen cables in there. I do see them. Some don't care. I think that's, you know, matter of preference. It's good to have the heated windscreen when you park outside in winter. But meanwhile, there are also technologies where you don't have to have the separate wires in there. So, but they still have this technology that was originally a Ford patent, and then Jaguar carried over from the times where they were still belonging at that time to the Ford Corporation. So this engine so far is actually pretty silent, so you don't notice it too much. You can at any time also shift down with pedals here, for example. That is possible. So like this here, also to D3, and still, I mean, it's quite well insulated, so you are remaining very silent. As for the wind noise in here, we're driving 70 kilometers an hour at the moment, and also the engine is not coming so much screaming out. For that one, you would take then the V6, but the sovereign driving feeling, engine-wise, that one is definitely there. So I really can't complain about that at all. We'll also give you an acceleration when we start now at the next green traffic light. Also, what I'm doing now is putting the car in S mode. That is a sport mode I pick with the driving selector. I don't have to go to any race mode. So this from D to S mode with the driving selector, that changes that the gears are turned up higher and the shifting is later or earlier down again. So let's go with that. Now you've also heard more sound from the engine. A little bit also like from the turbo, you've probably also heard, and that was, you know, really instantly. And only when you go back to the D mode, the car immediately shifts up gets silent again. We go back to the S mode. You actually do not have to use the shifting pedals then, because you have more automatic sporty shifting then. Good response. I mean, 6.3 seconds to 100 kilometers or 62 miles an hour. This engine has really got a lot of power, and if you drive it for the very first time, let the sound aside. It doesn't sound like the V6, but from the serenity, from the power, you could actually say, you know, it's really powerful. So you wouldn't probably realize that you only have a 4-cylinder. We're also going step a little bit on the motorway to give you some more performance shots there. But so far I can really say it's a very fun car to ride. That's for sure. Also always when you look to the front and see this power dome in front of you in your line of sight, that is another emotional element that's always pleasing. Oh, some Mustangs for sale, yellow, orange and yellow Ford Mustang. Nice ensemble right there. So what I'm usually keeping at the infotainment screen is, by the way, that I change where the vents are maybe coming from. Heated steering wheel, by the way, I forgot that to mention that you have that option. Very good for winter time rides for sure. Besides putting the gear selector to the S mode, by the way, you can also first of all go in the one direction to eco or snow mode. That is reducing the throttle input. So if we go also to D mode now and throttle, and it takes a little time that something is happening to reduce wheel spin. Here again, the 250 horsepower version, that one is also optionally available with the all-wheel drive. Therefore, wheel spin is also not such a factor. Increases the acceleration definitely and gives you more grip in the winter time. At the same time, I can also go to the dynamic mode. Then the stability control is being drawn back. Also, the shifting is changed a little bit. Does the car feel somehow different steering-wise then? Not really. Doesn't make such a difference. It's more about that the ESC, the electronic stability control, is drawn back. And shifting-wise, I mean, I already felt that the car is a little bit more active, but then the sporty setup would be this dynamic mode together with putting the car to the S, the shifting, sport shifting mode. That one is doing the biggest effect then. So, and in this sporty setup, let's go to the motorway, see what we can do there acceleration wise. Going uphill now. I mean, for uphill this wasn't actually too bad. So let's get on here, and here we can also show how do you get to speed when you're already at speed. So let's start at 80 kilometers an hour and then hammer it. I think we can get along 140 until we reach the next cars. So 150 that was. And I think that shows again, you do not need more cylinders for more performance, only probably for more sound. And now we hammered the car pretty much. Let's do some lane shifting at 100 here at higher speeds. See how stable the car is. Wow. Immediate response directly from the car. Again, the steering would feel a little bit more natural. It feels a little bit arcade gaming alike. So like in a computer game. But the car is behaving really very well. And this is not the S version. It's the R-Sport. That means it's rather a design trim. So there's no lowered suspension, stiffer sports suspension whatsoever. It's really more about the styling, but already in the base trim, this vehicle is pretty sporty. And so they're going rather in this BMW style direction than, for example, you know, a basic Mercedes C-Class or a basic Audi A4. Great vehicles, but not with such a sporty touch in the base model. But for example, BMW 3 Series and here also the Jaguar XE have this sporty touch already in the base version. Now, as I also want to get, more a consumption we can rather trust on, and also assistance systems, let's go for those. You activate them on the steering wheel, so either a speed limiter is possible. Let's see, we can then also the cruise control. So, well, that's fine. I mean, you can have an adaptive cruise control, but you can also have a normal cruise control. And as far as I remember, in the front, maybe I can. Jonas is doing cameraman, by the way, today. So best greetings and thumbs up to Jonas again. There was a 3D growler in the front, right? The Jaguar logo in the front was 3D. Yes. It was, yeah. So and that means it should not have adaptive cruise control. Let's find out if as we're running on this Mercedes SLC already it is. No, the car is not braking, and yeah, that proves the point. So that is the basic difference. I've told it quite a lot of times when we had the car in the front. The problem is really the 3D logo looks way better. The 2D logo with the plate is in place to hide the sensors behind it. Then you would have the adaptive cruise control here. That's good. But then it looks weird on the outside. I would say, why not do both? Do an attractive 3D logo and hide the sensor somewhere else. Maybe that's something, for the notebook, for the engineers, for the future. Here again, well, driving on the inside, adaptive cruise control nowadays is great stuff. You should have it. Then again, 2D logo on the outside, tricky one. Well, but using this car as a cruising vehicle, and you've also heard it, for example, as we were driving 150, the car was stable, calm, noise insulation was also good. So that is definitely well done. So the thing also, if you compare older Jaguars, the X-Type would be the predecessor to this one. But it was the same also from predecessor XF, so one segment above, to the new XF. The driving dynamics have improved massively. Interior-wise, there were problems at the first, Meanwhile, more improved again. But driving dynamics are really on top of the game. And now, as we will let the car roll, we can also check the consumption. We had a run now with a lot of acceleration, and consumption was now about 11 liters, but it's dropping now. But just to see what's the idle consumption, basically when we're riding now 90 kilometers now on the motorway and just letting cruise. So we reset the consumption for just a little bit, and let's see what comes up there. In general, at the moment, if you take the EU cycles, the current one, then you usually have to add over 2 liters per 100 kilometers to get a real consumption figure. The American consumption cycle is more correct. There you sometimes only have to add a little bit of consumption to get a real idea of what it's really about, So let's see, the first idle consumption figure should arrive pretty soon. Of course, I don't want to fake it too much when I'm riding just on the motorway, so we're also getting off here because I know there's a construction site coming. Yeah, there it is, 6.3. So 6.3 liters on 1 kilometer would then be the optimum consumption you could reach when you are really keeping it very steady, going cruise control on the motorway. That is also the figure that comes close to the very official figure of this vehicle. And you see, when I hammered the car, we were about 11. So, and then the very realistic consumption is somewhat in between. So, let's go. So now some countryside riding for us here. By the way, I'm going back to the D mode and also to the normal driving mode, because we also want to see how the fuel consumption is developing now. The digital displays are, by the way, very well to read, also when it's sunny, because they're also quite hidden deep in there. That's also fine. Maybe let's take a look at the map while we're driving. So it's a pretty clear resolution. You can also zoom in and out like it on a smartphone. And well, if you don't want to do it while driving, you can also press plus and minus. That is also possible. but I get a very clear picture actually where I'm at. Even if we do not have the adaptive cruise control, by the way, the good thing is that now the AEB, the automatic emergency brake, is from standard equipment. That's something we at Autogefühl are claiming for years, that every manufacturer, no matter the segment, and I mean especially with premium prices, include that in the standard equipment, that every vehicle has that. And they did it here, so that's good. And if I would, pass out at some point, then at least there's, something like a safety net. But here definitely, I mean, we've seen earlier that we do not have too much space in the rear. That the interior could need some more tweaking, although the emotional factor is surely out of question. But this one is really a driver's vehicle. I can say that in the driving part. And I think it's also a good solution that you have now a good alternative with this new Jaguar petrol engine. They have invested over £1 billion in this new manufacturing facility for the new petrol engines. Before that there was a new diesel family, but now more and more the petrol engines get more important. Also the ones that they don't consume too much fuel actually. And this is again a good choice. If you don't want diesel, but still don't want to spend so much money on the V6, because then it's reserved for the XES that you can see in another review we've did, I think 1.5 years ago. So we can stay at a reasonable price, but still already have an engine that has reasonable performance and gives you the character of a petrol engine. And what they have achieved with this twin scroll turbo is indeed there's no, especially when you're in the S mode and the gears are lower, there's no notable turbo lag for that. So it's not that you really wait for the turbo to set in. That is also thanks to this twin scroll technology they've introduced with that one here. Again, the biggest difference is really when you use the shifting pedals or go to the S mode. If you're in normal D driving mode, then everything is also set for a rather efficient ride. Then you also cannot expect that the car is, rocketing at the very first moment. Then some thoughts about XE versus XF, if you're thinking about that, or beforehand there were a lot of XF customers because they just said, I want to drive a Jaguar and the XF is the most affordable one, so I go for that one. Meanwhile, it's the XE. And this one here drives definitely a little bit more agile, a little sportier, and then the XF is also with less weight, of course. Of course, this is one of the reasons for that. If you do not need the space of the XF, so the XF would rather be than if you're very often traveling with tall people in the rear. That would be, a solution for that, for example. Other than that, you can really rely on the XE, save some money, have some more agility while riding. If it's, it really goes very fast that you get a unity with rider and vehicle. Yeah, that's Mazda has this saying of Jim by Itai, which means unity of rider and driver, horse and rider, originally from Japanese. But that's also something you feel here, that you feel connected to the road, the car and yourself become one unit, and you can very well control it. As we're also riding downhill here now, by the way, consumption has dropped down further, 5 liters, but that's again because there's a lot of rolling. And then also there's the effect, let's see, when we go to the eco mode now, if that's changing something from the RPMs. No, well, the RPMs are not totally shut off. Oh, and I also have some green buttons there, or green lights. They show me when I have the most economic riding, for example. So I think we've covered a lot of different elements: city riding, countryside, motorway with the performance. Consumption-wise, we can really see it totally depends on how you drive this vehicle. It's definitely possible, with some engines, especially with the bigger ones. The bigger ones, the thing is with the very big engines, if you hammer them totally, they often do not surge too much. But then again, they have a certain ground level consumption. But here with those smaller engines, they have a wider span. If you totally hammer them, the consumption will be even higher than with the big engines. But if you drive them very smoothly, you can score low consumptions. And there's a customer F-Pace in white, not one of the test vehicles today here. So you can have something between, even here now 5 liters or so, something between 5 and 10 liters. And again, something in between is then the very realistic figure. So overall, it shows that the fuel efficiency technologies they're using are definitely working. So they have a lot of different technologies applied there if you are using them properly. And again, both this vehicle is possible to ride it calmly, as see also, maybe also here on camera, I don't have to raise my voice that much. At the same time, if you really hammer it, if you need the power, then it's there. And the V6 is a lot of fun to drive, but then again, it's expensive, and it depends on your neighborhood. If you have car geeks in the neighborhood and say thumbs up for that sound, all is fine. But if you maybe have a more reserved neighborhood, I'm not sure if they are too happy about the very sonorous sound of that V6, which is a really great one from a car enthusiast point of view, for sure. So I think overall we can leave a positive verdict here with the 2-liter engine, the new one. Although I'm not a big fan of downsizing in general, this one here is one of the engines that is working pretty well in this case, in both of the directions, consumption and performance. Dynamic ride with the XE, also a silent ride. So from the driving part, I think we take a lot of positive sides for sure. We finished up with this ride over this bridge, over the River Ruhr. Very beautiful. And let's head over to our final conclusion. So that's it for today. Our conclusion with the Jaguar XE in this beautiful color. Definitely now new nuances of colors now when there's sunlight. So overall, a beauty for sure in the mid-size sedan segment. So no doubt about the exterior styling. Interior styling is also good. Interior build quality has been stepped up over the few model years now. And there's still some, air left to improve, so some tweaks should be done. It cannot, for example, catch up to the build quality of an Audi, but then again, it's also more interesting from the interior than an Audi. The package is surely not the best, more a driver-focused car for 1 or 2 people, not for tallest people in the rear, but still well usable, that's for sure. Driving dynamics, this one is a real strength of this vehicle, so really fun to drive. And also with the new engines, they can score a very good fuel economy. At the same time, if you want it, then they can also score very good performance. So this new 2-liter petrol engine is surely a very good alternative than if you don't want to put the price too high and still want to drive a petrol engine. What to be tweaked there? Well, the steering feeling could be a little bit more direct, a little bit more progressive in its characteristics. Overall, surely a very attractive choice in the mid-size segment. And again, well, you are pretty much more unique on the roads, although Jaguar has almost doubled the sales prices if you compare 2015 and 2016, mainly due to the F-Pace, but also here due to the XE. Want to hear your feedback on the car? Give me your comments and also tune in to the very next Autogefühl episode.